This session will delve into how to use first-party data to engage customers in a completely new way, with personalized language that truly resonates. We will also be unveiling new research on how consumers feel about protecting their privacy while also expecting personalized experiences from brands that they shop with. Please join me in welcoming our speakers, Rachel Larsen, Senior Marketing Manager of Old Navy, and Amy Heidersbach, CMO at Persado.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello. How are you?
Great. Rachel is a Commerce Nexty award finalist, so we are what's standing between the awards and whether or not Rachel wins today. So congrats. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Heidersbach with Persado, and Old Navy and Rachel and her team are customers, and we're going to spend most of our time learning from you today.
All right.
But we do want to talk about true personalization by activating first-party data, and even with the keynotes yesterday, activating first-party data now that we have it in our CDPs and have spent a lot of time and investment on digital transformation is a big theme here at Commerce Next. So let's jump into it. I'm pushing the green button. There we go. So one of the things that we know drives commerce is communication. As brands, we spend monthly our time and our creative energy driving 2 trillion messages per month to 4 billion digital consumers. And what that represents, and some work that we did with BCG, is about $800 billion in total value that those communications represent in terms of driving revenue, retention, which I know has also been a big theme, even servicing our customers better. And the challenge that we have now in front of us, so it's kind of threefold, 3 what we call converging forces that are really putting pressure on all of us as brands, B2C brands in retail, B2B brands like Persado, to reinvent how we communicate. The first challenge is really something we all feel as consumers. We know about our customers. We want personalized experiences. Not only do we want them, but we expect them. Accenture did some research, and 8 out of 10 frequent shoppers, our best customers, now say they will only do business with brands that personalize their experience. 8 out of 10. So if you're not really personalizing, you're losing those best customers to your competition. And in a new study that Commerce Next has fielded and we sponsored, about 2/3 of consumers are willing to trade personal data, not just their age, their education, where they live, their household income, some really, I think, very personal data in order to get the quid pro quo of a better personalized experience. We'll talk a little bit more about that study in a minute. The second challenge really relates to, the cookieless and pixelless future. The changes in third-party data are putting pressure on all of our balance sheets and representing a significant gap in our P&Ls. Next year, what's estimated in terms of the impact that the browser market is going to have on third-party cookies is 85% share of the browser market is going to be blocking those third-party cookied messages that we all want to and have been putting out there in the world. 85% of third-party cookies aren't going to get through. And that's a 10 billion, I think that's a conservative estimate, revenue gap from those changes that we're starting to see, haven't come on as quickly maybe as some of us thought, but by next year, really going to be putting pressure on us all. And third, the communication effectiveness has been declining. We know this, we see this, we feel this as consumers, even as the complexity of channel proliferation, touch points, et cetera, is accelerating. So in the last 8 years, email engagement rate down 75%. What was common to be a few touch points to get a conversion is now as many as 20 touch points in terms of the average consumer's buying journey. And that's on and offline, across devices, 24/7. That level of complexity is really hard to keep up with, hard to manage. And then human-generated creative, and Rachel will talk about this, it's not sufficient anymore to scale, to use the data that's now available to us to deliver those 2 trillion messages a month that we're sending. So the way forward, and what we're here to talk about today, is that using AI to create predictive, personalized messages that scale across the business and unlock new sources of value for brands using first-party data is really an opportunity that we at Persado, and we'll hear how Old Navy is capturing. It's an exciting time to be bringing machines onto our marketing teams. So at Persado, one of the things that is fundamental to our business is mapping language to human emotion. Why? Because human emotion accounts for 60% or more of why we as people engage or not with a message. This is what we call our wheel of emotion. If you come to our booth after the session, you can spin the wheel for lots of interesting prizes, including the newly added Shake Shack gift certificate for those who need a shake after a couple of long days. But we basically break down language to 5 general emotion areas: pride, anticipation, fear, joy, and trust. And we as humans don't have a fixed position in terms of the emotional language that we connect with. If you think 21 months ago, a lot of anticipation-based language or FOMO-based language was pretty compelling to a lot of people that we see on our platform. We have about 150 million consumers in the US who have contributed data into the Persado platform. But we saw that shift almost overnight 20 months ago in March of last year to trust, messages of safety. We wanted the brands that we did business with and interact with to communicate in a way that was very different than the month prior. So we need to be able to not only know what emotions are resonating with consumers, but know how they're changing. So it starts with mapping to human emotion, and we believe recognizing that there's a new form of first-party data available to us as marketers and retailers, and that's what we call language profiles. So what started as creative that was built by humans using powers of intuition, that was largely subjective, inconsistent in terms of the customer experience, and required some guesswork in terms of the outcomes. We now see with folks like Rachel and brands like Old Navy coming together as humans plus machines driving first-party data language profiles that are objective, consistent in terms of how the customer is able to connect with the brands that they love and want to do business with, and drive predictable outcomes. We like to say bankable ROI. So that is leading to the emergence of this language, this new first-party data that's based in human emotions. That's where we believe the last mile of personalization is really coming from, and can be responsive to changes like we saw in March of 2020. The result of all of this is a more personalized experience and significant new sources of value. Imagine if more of those 2 trillion communications per month actually led to someone taking the action we want them to and unlocking the revenue, acquisition revenue, retention revenue, or service efficiency that we're looking for. Our communications, this is a before and after example, really break down the emotional elements of in this case, an email, the narrative, the descriptive, and the functional, and are able to create multivariate tests at a really high rate of acceleration so teams can learn. Our average on the platform is 15 times ROI of the control campaign that we're going up against. You'll hear in a minute, Old Navy is crushing that platform average, but it results in this case for our customer, $100 million in incremental revenue. So it's machines that are holding performance-based KPIs, and we believe that as marketers, we should be holding, like we do our folks, the machines contributing to our team's work accountable for the upside value. Okay, so back to the study that Commerce Next is just launching. We went in, talked with hundreds of consumers, and the good news is they want to make a deal. They are happy, 2/3 of them, and it increases in that orange cohort, which is 18 to 24. They are happy to trade personal data for more personalized experiences. On the left side is just a snapshot from the study, and again, the blue is the total responders, the orange is the 18 to 24 cohort. We're not talking about just demographic information. What they're willing to provide includes activities that they're interested in, body diagnostics, health diagnostics, daily habits, some really personal information. And we don't have a problem sharing this with the brands that we do business with, as long as they're delivering not only best offer, remember what I've ordered, recommend what I might want next, but just share useful information, tips, knowledge, anything that's related to my interest. All right, so with that in mind, let's hear how Old Navy does it.
Okay.
Rachel is here with us, and I think let's start, Rachel, with how you're driving personalized predictive messages considering all of this complexity.
Yeah, so to set this up just a little bit, I'm looking at our email calendar. We specifically work with Persado largely with our email program. I'm looking about a month out and seeing what are the new things we might want to test, what are our biggest, highest priorities for that time period, and I'm deciding which specific campaigns we're going to actually do an experiment on. So once I give the controls to the Persado team, they're inputting it, they're deconstructing that message into all of the different elements that it is, generating all of the different variants they're going to use. I'm checking just for brand alignment to make sure we're good to go. And then we do the experiment, and within about 2 weeks, we have a plethora of analysis. Yes, within 2 weeks usually. On how everything performed, and then also we're given a best predicted subject line. So maybe it wasn't one of the exact variants, but based on everything that they tested and learned within those, we'll get a best predicted variant that we can then use in a similar situation in the future.
And you've been doing this for a while. Before you had machines helping you, how long did that take to get those learnings and insights?
Well, the amount we can test with Persado in a given month would take a year, easily. There's just no way that a team of, maybe you're 4, maybe you're 5, whatever that is, there's no way that you can get to the scale that you can with machine learning, without machine learning.
Yeah, I've had other customers say, even if we could hire hundreds of people, and some of them can, we can't possibly manage all the complexity. Yeah, that's really interesting. So, language driving better results and deeper insights. With that extra time, you're able to think about, what you've learned and maybe, dig deeper into the surprises. What have been some of the surprises that you and your team have come across since you've been running these massive test and learn multivariant campaigns on the platform?
The biggest surprise has been urgency for us as an emotion. I think as marketers, that tends to be a go-to for us. In particular, at the end of an offer, it's very much 6 hours left, or this is the last day, do it now, 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 now. And what we found is it actually is one of the least effective emotional phrases for the Old Navy shopper.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Urgency is one of the least effective language, emotional language messages that you're
Yes.
sending. I mean, I would have thought it would be one of the best performers.
Yeah, so for us it actually is usually achievement and excitement we kind of consistently see those, which I think matches with the feel of our brand, so that's kind of fun.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. And so what kinds of achievement and excitement messages are really playing well? What's an example of that?
Well, I don't know if I could tie them specifically to achievement or excitement, but we've had some really interesting insights that have been very actionable for us. In particular, when we're messaging clearance, one of the ones we found recently was actually that a dollar value is a lot more effective than a percent value, even if the actual discount amount is the same.
Yeah.
So if we say styles, clearance styles from $3.99, rather than saying clearance styles up to 75% off, our customer actually responds a lot better to a price point than they do to a percentage. We've also found that for retail language in particular, anything that has to do with an in-store offer, so $10 off your $20 in-store purchase, we place at the beginning of our subject line rather than at the end. So we have not only emotional learnings, but also placement within the subject line.
Right.
And then pairing that with an emotional language just gets you.
Right.
Bada boom.
In this example that's on the screen for the folks who are joining us virtually and in the room here, 75% of the message and the reason why the message worked was contributed by emotional language. And in this case, achievement. You've really won big.
Yeah.
And then the majority of the other is the offer itself. So you're able to play around with not only, and get to scientific certainty with these elements, but then the order of them.
Oh yeah,
Talk that out,
absolutely.
too.
It's way more than just the emotional language. There's other things that play in. So yeah, the descriptive language of the offer itself, there's a lot to learn there.
Okay, well, let's get to results because you are a finalist for the Commerce Nexty in Best Use of Data or Technology in Marketing. Congrats.
Thank you.
You have achieved, a massive ROI. Let's talk about, the impact in this, how it's helping your team work differently.
Yeah, so for us, the biggest, most exciting thing that we've just started is our new loyalty program. So we're having millions of new people come into the ecosystem that we're able to personalize for. Things like your reward tier status or your card status, what your purchase behavior looks like, what channel you prefer to shop, all of that we're able to make sure that we're incorporating into each message to make sure that every time we're speaking to you, it's as close to a one-to-one communication as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's great. And so you've launched this new loyalty program.
Yeah.
What do you think that predictive language is going to help you deliver as you bring that to market?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we haven't had an opportunity to really test on it yet, but
what have you learned over the last
Yeah.
couple of years that you think is going to help make the new loyalty program a great success?
Yeah, so we've tested just hundreds of things and consistently see incredible ROI when we use Persado. So when you get to a point where every test that you're doing is giving you positive results, you trust that process. I trust the tool, I trust the team that we're working with. Yeah. So with this new loyalty program, we have so much there to unlock that we haven't discovered yet, but I'm 100% positive.
One of the promises of automation is that it enables people to spend more time doing the interesting work.
Yes.
So how is it changing the way your team works? And by your team, the expansive team at Old Navy that's responsible together to bring campaigns to market, including creative.
Yeah, so this is a huge win for our copy team specifically. The way the portal tool works for us is it essentially is a library of thousands of subject lines that we have already tested, so we know what the results are. And when you have offers that are pretty similar and you're not needing to reinvent the wheel every time, your copy team then has all of this new time available that's freed up to work on things that are more important, that need their attention. So that's been a huge win for us. It also, it tells us what works, but it also tells us what doesn't work even without us asking. So it really is just a huge time saver.
I bet the copywriters appreciate not
They're
having
big
to
fans,
be
yes.
subject line monkeys all the
They're
time,
big
right?
fans.
Yeah. All right. Well, so, for the leaders in the room and for others who are going to be either dialing in now or later, what advice do you have in terms of thinking about AI coming into content and creative?
Yeah, I just think it's really important that you prioritize being temporarily uncomfortable. I know that testing and personalization is a lot of times the first thing to go because you have all these competing priorities, but you really need to prioritize that because the long-term gain is so worth it.
Yeah, you have to put in the time early.
Yes,
and it's
absolutely.
not easy, right, to set up all those, in your case, 16 variants for hundreds of campaigns. But you've been doing this for a couple of years now, and it's really paying off, including some of the reasons that you're a finalist today.
Yes.
So congrats again.
Thank you.
So as we think about the last mile to true personalization, it makes sense that it's in the language that we use to deliver the message to the prospect we want to acquire, the customer we want to retain and grow, or service better, that this is an opportunity to activate customer data to deliver the true promise of one-to-one marketing. I've been doing this 30 years and have been trying to get the right message at the right time to the right person in the right channel. The message carries that, so that's exciting. To continuously generate the responsive content, that changes, that delivers the insights in different channels at different moments for different consumers, and really connects to human emotion, which is the reason typically why we respond to a message we're served, and generate the action that we as brands want. And automate and scale language personalization. Again, if we could hire hundreds of people in a tough time for hiring, that still wouldn't be enough to automate with the complexity we have. To get to predictability and certainty, is really something only machines can provide in combination with the talented people on our teams. So we'll be back in this room, I believe, for the ceremony. But meanwhile, please join us at 43. It's straight up the stairs in the next room. Learn more about how to activate your third-party data. We've got the new report available at our exhibit. And let's talk about the Wheel of Emotions and give it a spin to see if you can get that Shake Shack gift certificate or a bunch of other prizes. So thank you, Rachel. We love working with you. Thanks for sharing
You're
your
welcome.
insights today.
Thank you.